how to get yourself that dream job. What is it that you're not doing right? What is it that you need to do right? From the time you make that application all the way up to the interview process, and what's most important, keeping the job. It's not just about getting it. So we're asking you our question today. Do you think fresh graduates are ready for the job market today? The Federation of Kenya Employers is questioning whether graduates are receiving the adequate training for the jobs that they need. And that's why we're asking you today, are you a fresh graduate? Do you feel you're ready for the job market? What do you need to get yourself that dream job? Today, we're speaking with Vivian Ojal, who's the Africa lead for Armada Human Capital. We'll be talking about them and what they do. Indeed, if you ever sit before Vivian and you're having that interview, what will she be looking for in you? And by the way, we're not just talking to fresh graduates this morning. We're talking to anybody else who wants to, move from one company to to another, to move up in the company in which you work for, or you're just looking for a change of scenery as well. All of this. So send in your questions on Twitter and your comments as well as on SMS. Vivian, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Really good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So, fresh graduates, 'tis the season, it is. Of course, the market is flooded with all of these young, energetic individuals now. Do you see a lot of applications at this time, or do people apply just before they graduate?
It tends to be a little bit more at this time, but throughout the year you get quite a number of graduates and just about to graduate, and some interns and others are looking for graduate trainee programs, so there's quite a number all the time.
Okay.
But more so now, as everybody's saying, hey, we need to get a job.
Absolutely,
we're done.
Yes.
We need to start making up the money.
Making that money, and that's
exactly.
That's what it is, with young people. Let's talk about some of the opportunities that are available now, especially once people graduate. And you've talked about graduate trainee programs. We've got management trainee programs, and indeed, of course, the regular work that we have. Let's talk about some of the opportunities. Are jobs as hard to come by as we hear?
Well, it's a catch-22 because employers are saying we can't find good talent, while on the other side, talent is out there and they're saying, hey, we can't find a job. So I think there's a gap that needs to be bridged in regards to what are employers looking for and what are our students getting ready for when they get out of school.
Okay.
One of the key things that you mentioned sort of offline when we were speaking was about experience. I'm just graduating from school and people want me to make sure that I have some work experience.
Right.
How do I go about that? Well, those are some of the key things you need to work through out your education.
Right.
Start from your first year, your second year, your third year. Universities like USIU actually make it a prerequisite that you have to have had an internship before they can let you graduate, which I think is a really good thing. It's not so much because your education is not satisfactory for what employers are looking for. Your education is a foundation, so whether you do it in marketing or business dev or chemical engineering, it really doesn't matter. It all depends on what it is that you want to do, because a lot of the students in some of the local universities were called up for it.
Okay.
They were called up for veterinary medicine. They're like, but I wanted to be a marketer.
Right.
You can still be a marketer even with veterinary medicine.
Okay.
You had options to, some of the classes that you have options to take. You could take the marketing courses and sort of get yourself developed to that area. But look at your undergraduate degree as a foundation.
Yes.
What these people are looking to see is who are you and what do you actually have to offer the organization, which I think a lot of people still don't know who they are.
Right.
And that's the first thing that you're selling to an organization is you.
Okay.
So when people ask you, tell me about yourself, it's not, I'm a Christian, I'm the last born in the family.
My hobbies are...
Yes, no, that's not what it's about. It's about your values, what you're looking for. I'm a very passionate, energetic young woman. I'm very well organized. I know I don't have the exposure that you're looking for, but I work very hard and I learn fast. And I think that you won't regret having me on your team because you will get things done. So you have to...
I do hope you've taken note of what she's just said, because that just seems absolutely perfect to get yourself in the door. But what in essence you're telling us, Vivian, this morning is that it's really important to start thinking about the job from your first year of university.
Exactly.
Because I think many people think, okay, now I'm done. And then after your 4, 5 or 6 years of your course is when you start to think about the work. But in essence, it begins from your first year, right?
Exactly, because you might not necessarily know. I know for myself, I changed my major 3 or 4 times. I was lucky to have gone to a school that would allow me to do that.
Right.
I didn't have to make up my mind until my 3rd year, which I finally did, because they're like, you have to graduate. So
you have to make up your mind now.
Exactly.
Yes.
And they, during that entire time, I didn't know what I wanted to study or what I really wanted to be, but I had an idea. I knew it was administrative oriented. I knew it was organizing things. It was building things and putting stuff together. So with that vision, I tried to expose myself to things that would allow me to do that. Where's the administration? Where's the creative courses? Where are the things that get me to speak more or do presentations and get really creative and innovative with them? So you kind of need to start looking at what your key interests are, where you want to be, and gear yourself to activities towards that. During university, you need to also be involved in extracurricular activities. It's not just about I went to class. And I, you know, got 4.0 GPA. What other things did you do? What leadership roles did you take up? Because when we're talking about experience, it's not necessarily hardcore in the workplace, but have you demonstrated a leadership capacity within your university? ISEC students demonstrate quite a bit of that, which is a great program. I know certain employers, when they're looking for people who can present themselves well or do marketing roles or sales roles, they usually pick ISEC because of the programs that ISEC take their students through and being a member. They're very outgoing. So organizations like that help. But there's several different kinds of different organizations you could be involved in at the same time.
And like you mentioned, a lot of us who are called into public universities as well, you're called up for a course you might not necessarily have applied for. It wasn't the top on your priority list. You know, you get 4 choices when you're in high school, and they might not pick you for your first choice or your second choice. Most likely even for your 3rd choice, you probably do get the 4th choice, and you say, well, you know, this is what I wanted to do, but I was picked to do this, so I went in anyway. But you say there's a way you can, you know, work with that. The basis of a first degree is...
It's a foundation. It's just giving you the foundation to life. It's your life skills. You're learning certain core things. When you get into a master's program, then you're really saying, this is what I want to focus on. This is my core. My undergraduate degree, could you guess what it's in? It's actually in...
Engineering?
No. The College of Agriculture and Natural Resources is where I got my degree from. And it's actually a marketing degree. It's between the Business College and the College of Agriculture, and Natural Resources. It's 50% in the ag school and the other 50% in the business school. So as opposed to doing a marketing course, like I said, I needed to be entertained in school. I hate school, but I had to get a degree, so it had to be something interesting. In the business school, you take marketing and they sort of just teach you how to market a product like the juice we're having this morning from the time it gets to the shelf and get it into people's dining rooms. Now, what we did was figure out how it gets all the way from seed to table. So to the packaging and all of that. So it was excellent.
So marketing agricultural products.
Exactly. Exactly. So how do I get it from seed to table? How do I get this from papaya into juice onto the table and packaged, which I found really, really exciting. And I always wanted to study HR, but I found it really, really boring. And I said, this is just horrible. Like, how do you expect me to study this for 4 years? I can't do it. And I said, well, it doesn't really matter because I just need to have a degree right now. That's all I'm focused on. I don't care what it's in. It could be in aeronautics, whatever it is. I just want a degree. But as I went along, as an international student overseas, kind of jobs that they were offering were in FMCGs, and those are entry-level type of positions. So they said, there's no reason why we would give you a work permit for it, so there's no way we're going to give you an internship. But guess which internships were available? The HR ones. So I ended up still in the HR field simply by exposure as an intern and my first job. That's how I got back into HR. And for me, what I realized was that marketing and HR are connected to the hip. Marketing and recruitment are connected to the hip, because my first job was about sales, and marketing. I was selling the organization to students. I was telling them this is the best place to work. I mean, it was the best recruiting job I've ever had. We would get over 1,000 applications during a high season like this, because usually we're looking for the fresh grads or MBA grads as well. So we wine and dine you once we've selected who you are, who we want on board. Now to convince you to sign your offer letter, we're wining and dining you. We're setting you up at the Ritz-Carlton. We're doing all these amazing things to get you to sign up with this consulting firm versus a competing consulting firm.
All right, so all of this is being done. At least we've gotten the basics about internships and attachments being very, very important. And these do count for work experience?
Yes.
You can comfortably say, I have done internship for 6 months, 9 months? Okay.
And it has to be internship experience that's relevant to what it is that you're trying to achieve.
Okay.
Like, for instance, I mentioned I wanted to be in HR, but I just didn't find the foundation course of it very interesting. But I found a way to use other courses to get creative with the opportunity of HR. Like I mentioned, marketing, I got into recruitment, I connected the two. I said, all I'm doing is selling, because that's all I need to get these people into the organization. I need to sell the brand. So when you're looking at it as a foundational course, you also need to realize, maybe I'm not so interested in chemical engineering. I might have the brains for it. I might be doing good, but I could do something else altogether. Like, I have a cousin who's a geneticist, but she's just an amazing marketer. Like, that's what she loved to do. But all she does now is clone genes and work in research labs and stuff like that. But if she really wants to, she can.
Okay, all right. And we'll also be talking about that a little later. You know, you probably graduated in a certain course and started working, and you want to make this career shift. And we'll be talking about how you can achieve that. Now, the Federation of Kenya Employers is saying there's a huge disconnect between what we are studying in school and whether indeed we are ready for the job market. Do you think there's a gap in our education system when you sit down and you start taking a look at CVs and resumes that are coming in? Do you think there's a bit of a gap there?
No, well, there is a gap in terms of what we're looking for in the working world and what these kids actually have. But I also think it's a way on how they position themselves. There's specific courses I've taken in class that are in uni that are very key to what it is that I'm applying for. So why not find a way to highlight that? You know, like I learned about how to get food from seed to table. Be creative in terms of what it is that you know to sell yourself on there. The second bit is, yes, there is a gap, but I don't think the gap is necessarily on the education side of things. I think the gap is on the preparation side of things. Is actually getting our kids to be confident and understand who they are first before they even consider, you know, a career. What do you value? What do you want to do in life? You know, like for me, it's important to just be around friends and family, people that I love. That's key for me as one of my values in life. Second, I want to do something that's fun, impactful, adventurous every so often. And 3, I want to be an entrepreneur. Do you know what it is that you want to do when you're coming out of university? Do you know what's important? Because then you sort of align your career path based on those core things that you want to achieve. So I'm not going to take a job that's going to take me away from family, you know, or time with them, or that quality time was spent. What are you willing to break your values for? You know, you shouldn't want to break your values if the organization's values do not resonate with your own. The work environment doesn't resonate with your own, which is different though. If you're coming straight out of university and you just need a job, you need to pay the bills, you want to move out of mom's house, you want to be independent, you have a degree, you're tired of listening to mom at home telling you what to do, you know, you want your own money so you can be your own person, right? What you need to do is build yourself up bit by bit again, and I think we need a lot of the private sector's help and support. Companies such as 7Cs are doing a great job for it, where they're saying, okay, we're churning out quite a number of graduates in this country, but they're not quite at the level that we need, so what are we going to do about it? And they have this whole program where they take them in and just, you know, develop them as we go along. I think if more organizations did that, they would create, you know, like take their internship program a little bit more seriously. They would be able to bridge some of this gap, because the problem is the kids are just not getting exposed. How do you get exposed if there's no experience offered to you to, you know, to do it? Like my first job was at 13 or 12 years old. And for me, that was easy because it was in my school. So in my high school, I worked with one of the librarian teachers
Okay.
And, you know, they pay me per hour that I work. Maybe it was only an hour a day, but
Right.
it was work. Being boarding school, some other people were folding the clothes, the laundry that we used to have
Okay.
done. They're the ones folding it and giving it back to you. There's the studio, you know, selling stuff.
So
There's
there's
little
lots of creative
stuff.
ways, yes, to be able to get yourself into that mode of understanding the ethics and values of, being employed and working
Exactly.
and the responsibility that comes with it. Now, Tamada, you are a recruitment process outsourcing organization. Let's talk about that, because there's a lot of young graduates who are going to come and they'll experience organizations like yourself. What do you do in terms of linking up job seekers with the jobs?
Now, at Amada, like you mentioned, we outsource the recruiting process. We can get you to outsource end-to-end or an aspect of it. Because I think what you're trying to understand is how far do we actually go to support candidates in terms of getting work.
Right.
We have some clients that say, we just need you to post and market this job for us, get as many candidates and forward it to us. Then others say, hey, shortlist for us, or we just need you to interview. So it really depends on what the client is, but we are very active on social media. If you follow us on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, we're all over the place, and we're always blasting all the latest vacancies that we have, because we found that social media has been a very, very good way for us to get candidates, passive and active. You get a lot of active, but you also get a lot of passive candidates who are like, I wasn't looking, but that sounds, quite interesting.
Yeah.
Or I might see it and be like, hey, Yvonne might appreciate that one. Let me forward it to her. So what we do is we encourage people, if you're actively looking for work, even with a staffing agency, as much as, they're supposed to connect you to jobs, you need to be active. You need to be on their sites all the time to see certain vacancies, because the reality is we'll get almost 1,000 applications on any given day, especially now that we're leveraging on social media. So out of those 1,000 people, the set of recruiters who are under pressure to disposition these candidates, whether it's a yay or nay, or you need to take an assessment, or we're scheduling you for interviews, they're not thinking about Yvonne, who communicated 2 months ago and said, I need a marketing role. They're thinking, I have 1,000 applicants right now who are so interested. If I don't find that person within this pile, then I will go back and look, oh yeah, there was a conversation I had with Yvonne.
So you've got to continue to be active in the search.
Exactly. Unless you're dealing with headhunters, more executive role type of people, who for them, they're like, I need to place her. I place her and that's my money. That's my commission at the end of the month. And at that point, they're looking at your level of skill. You're very hard to reach type of person. You don't move often. If you move, it's a strategic move. It's a move specifically for growth. But therefore, other levels of positions where it's just like, there are many people who want to move jobs. There are many people who are looking for better pay, better work, want to work for some of the multinational organizations coming in. You need to find a way to be at the recruiter's top of mind, always.
Always. One of those things that a recruiter looks for, or somebody in HR who's sitting down for that interview, of course, is your resume. Your CV, and of course, out of those 1,000 applicants that you've got, I would imagine that the first thing you look at is the resume that they send in.
Exactly.
Now, here's the big one, because it has been said that your resume can make or break your application. So let's talk about some of the things that you've seen in resumes that you think should not be in resumes, or what a resume should not look like. Absolutely.
Now you talked about these students graduating. Now, what not to do as a new graduate is have a CV that's more than 1 page. What are you telling us? You just told us you don't have work experience. So what are you telling us in 6 pages? You need to cut it down to 1 page. Get short, sweet, straight to the point. It's the one document that gets to the HR office before they even figure out who you are. So it's the one time you have to sell yourself. So make it be very relevant information. For undergrads, for the graduates that have just graduated, we don't care about high school anymore once you have a degree. Once you have a college degree, that is what we're focused. High school, it's great to know maybe you went to, St. Mary's, maybe there's Alliance or like an old boys school or something. If you think that will make a difference to the person making a decision, you can sneak it in there somehow. However, don't worry about your high school, because now that you have a degree, I'm more focused on what did you learn in university, what do you have to offer based on that. Work experience is key. If you don't have work experience, focus on your education. what it is that you've learned, what it is that you have to offer. I mean, you have many people who have master's degrees and still don't have any work experience, because some people say, well, you know what, I finished school, I couldn't find a job, so I went to do a master's. And it's great, and you think that because you have a master's, you should be able to get a great job. But it's not always the case, because people, again, are looking for that experience. For the more experienced people who've had some work, if you could have a CV, maximum 2 pages if you have to. I have 12 years experience, and my CV is 2 pages. In fact, I was so excited.
Right.
I managed to make it a little less than 2 pages, you know, like halfway through. One of the first jobs that I ever got in Nairobi was with a big company, like an SME that's sort of grown over the years. And I went to the CEO's office for an interview, and he never got back to me. And so one time when I was sitting at a bar, surprisingly, I was telling my friend, I was like, there's that guy who refused to give me a job. And he said, go talk to him. I said, no, he refused to give me a job. I don't want to talk to him.
He didn't call me back.
He's like, go talk to him. So I said, fine. I stood up. I was like, hi, how are you doing? I'm Vivian. He looked at me. I was like, we met last week and you mentioned you'd call me back for a position. And he's like, oh yes, I still have your book on my desk. You know, he was referring to my CV as a book. It was too many pages for him, and he's a bullet point kind of guy. Get straight to the point. Tell me what you've achieved and what it is, you know, so I know where to fit you. Then he actually said, you know what, come in to my office tomorrow and let's talk. And that's actually how I got the job. If I didn't have that opportunity to chase him up front, then I probably wouldn't have gotten that job.
So your CV needs to be short, sweet, to the point. What are the things that we used to put in our CVs 5-6 years ago that are redundant now? What do you not want to see in my CV?
I don't want to see attachments of all your certificates. At the very beginning. We haven't even gotten to know each other, and you're sending me all this personal information about yourself. I just need to know your first 1-pager or 2-pager about yourself. If I like it and I need more information, I'll ask for it. Things like date of birth, religion, those things, you don't have to put that. Nationality, those are not key things that you need to put on your CV. It just needs to be Vivian Ojal at the top, contact information, and obviously the easiest way to contact people nowadays is via email and your phone number. Make sure you have a working phone number. We have some candidates that have put 3 numbers and we can't reach them on any of them. So make sure it's a working number that you can be reached at, because that's how quickly you can actually miss out on an opportunity. I think those are some of the key things you just need to do, is remove those personal data, married, single, 2 children, you know. And unfortunately, it can go against you in some areas where you actually put that, especially for women. Age group between 18 to 35, and you're putting there, I'm a mother, and they're like, you know what, this job is high pressure. I don't think she'll be able to manage it if she's got kids so young. And other times, it's most employers actually are saying, you know what, I actually had a client who told me one time, and he said, I don't want anyone between 18 to 35, that childbearing age, because I'm not ready to pay for maternity leave for this person for 3 months and hire somebody else to do their work for those 3 months. So don't put bio information on there. It also sort of makes it easier to sideline you for simple things, which you don't want at all.
All right. There's the line, and I think we all put that in our CVs, and lots of learning for me as well. So we say my hobbies are singing, traveling, dancing. What's the other thing that we put in there?
It could work for you if you're, again, entry level, just coming out of university, trying to show how versatile you are and how you can be flexible and do several different things, gauge your attention, because probably your hobbies are all I have to gauge about who you are. You know, I love to read, so let's have a conversation about you reading. What books do you read? Why do you like to read those kind of books? You know, you can build into different questions from things like that. But the older you get, you want to put more of your professional achievements, what it is that you're good at. what it is that you've received awards for.
Okay.
You know, like, has your organization ever recognized you for exemplary performance?
I see.
And if they did, how did they do that?
Okay.
You want to showcase that. How have you surpassed your targets in sales?
All right.
Have you grown the organization? Have you turned around the organization and saved 50 jobs from, you know, your actions? So it's not just about what you're doing, it's about the value you actually added. What were your achievements while you were working within that organization, so that you can show, you know what, I can do the same if I come into your organization.
Right. Or if it's the case of internship, these are the skills I was able to pick up during my internship. This is what I have learned.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. All right. Many questions that are coming in, and we're inviting you to send us in your questions on Twitter. That's at Yvonne Aquarian. We'll be giving you Amada's Twitter handle as well. And of course, if you want to catch them on LinkedIn as well. So let's take a look at this one. Charlie says that resumes must also be typed and printed in an easy to read font. So obviously nothing should be handwritten anymore.
No.
This is 2013, right?
No, not handwritten, but you will occasionally find that, but that's somebody who's more like a messenger or a janitor.
Right.
It'll probably be handwritten because they don't have access to a computer. But if you've got work experience, there is no need for you to have a written resume.
Okay.
Handwriting not easy, so keep it, like he mentioned.
Right. So we're not trying to figure out, so what does this mean exactly?
Exactly.
You know, is that a U or an N?
Especially if it's my writing, you will not figure it out.
Okay. So just important to say, you know, just so that we don't have, you know, assumptions, that your resume and your cover letter as well. So what do you say in the cover letter? Because your resume has said all of these things, you know, cover letter?
No, your cover letter is like a marketing document before they actually get to the real meat.
Okay.
So you usually want to do a brief introduction as to who you are and how you heard about the role. You know, dear Yvonne, I heard about this role on the Sunrise show yesterday, and I think I'd be the perfect candidate for it. I know I have from personal and supervisor feedback that my performance is exemplary, but, you know, this doesn't tell my CV is attached for you to review, but it doesn't tell the whole story.
Okay.
Invite me in for an interview and I'll be able to tell you more. Because what you want to do with your cover letter, and I have to emphasize this, is get them to look at your CV. Okay, if you are
so your
talking
cover
too
letter
much
is to
on
drive them to the CV.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, like, I'm great. If you take a look at my resume, it will show you what I've been able to achieve. However, it doesn't tell the whole story. So call me in for an interview. You have to ask for it, kind of like a sales pitch.
Right.
You're selling.
Yes.
Can I get a meeting with you in person, say next week at 10 a.m.? You know, you have to sort of make the initiative.
Right.
And I can tell you more about how I can take your organization to the next level based on my current track record.
Okay.
You know, so very short. Don't make it paragraphs. If it could be just short, sweet, straight to the point, and get them to look at your CV.
Okay.
That's what you want to do. But most people make the mistake of putting almost everything that's on their resume onto the CV.
Letter. Right, okay. Okay, so then you've gotten to that point, you've got a good cover letter. You said, take a look at my CV and I'm available for you Wednesday at 10 or, you know, at your earliest convenience. And so you're called in for the interview. So how do you get yourself prepared for that one? And this is not just to fresh graduates, because this applies to anybody in their 30s, in their 40s, you know, seeking to change jobs. What do they now need to do when you finally get that call that says, we've taken a look at your resume and we'd like to come in and have a chat on, you know, this position? How do you prepare yourself for that? How do you show up?
Now, you need to make sure, one, you understand the job that you're actually applying for, what they've asked for. So study it as much as possible. And even by studying that job description, you're going to realize that I do have some questions, which is great. You should always have questions, good questions.
Okay.
You need to understand the organization. If you can even get some insight as to who's interviewing me, so you can get a feel for who they really are, what their style is, so that you're prepared to also ask them questions about their career. Because the first thing I'm going to ask you is, okay, so what does it take for me to work in Sunrise? I've looked through the job description that you have, and I think I'm really excited, but I'd like to hear from you. What exactly does this job entail?
Right.
You know, it'd be much more interesting than just reading it from this job description. So that you can make it engaging. Interviews are not meant to be a one-way thing. It's a two-way thing, because you realize that you're actually also interviewing this person.
Okay.
You're giving them something that you will never be able to get back, which is your time. So you need to interview them as well to understand, is this the kind of organization that I want to work for? And stop focusing on pay. Pay is key, but in the first interview, all you're trying to do is sell yourself. You're trying to sell yourself.
Okay. All right. So selling yourself also involves how you look. And I guess this is just talking about branding. And I guess this is probably what you've been alluding to, in terms of you start thinking, you know, with the end in mind, like you've mentioned, from, you know, your first year in university, getting yourself the right exposure, if and when possible. But then you show up for the interview and perhaps you don't quite look the part.
Yes.
Let's talk about it. That's huge, because, you know, as human beings, Vivian, we are, perhaps it's a human fault. We gauge people based on first impressions. Whether we like it or not, that's what we do. So how do I need to look when I show up and you're sitting at the panel?
Well, it's very true. If I come into my waiting room and I see you waiting, I'm going to gauge you based on your appearance, because I'm thinking, these are the people I'm going to put in front of my clients. So can they dress the part?
Right.
That's obviously the first thing. Always be conservative. You know, like purposefully, today I wore this dark suit because I was like, this is, you know, if you can, go ahead and keep your colors dark. Don't wear your bright yellow suits or pink or whatever. Keep it very simple. You don't want to attract too much attention to you. If you're a makeup person, just sort of tone down on the makeup a little bit. You know, you don't want to go in there looking like you're about to go to a party, which is the same. It goes down to shoes. And I think even as women today, I don't think we are very sensitive about the shoes that we wear in the workplace or to an interview. There are certain shoes I can wear to work, and there are certain shoes that should be on their way to the club, you know, or a nice Sunday afternoon somewhere.
Yes.
So you need to be very conscious about that. Even how you carry yourself in the interview room. We actually had somebody who fell asleep on our chair. Like, and when I say fell asleep, she cuddled and she covered herself with her sweater
while waiting for the
interview with everybody else, and that's not a good look. And that's not a good look at all.
Certainly not.
Exactly. So, I mean, if you're not feeling well, we're human, like you mentioned. Just communicate to us and say, hey, I've had a tough night. I don't know if you can push my interview up a little bit. Or, you know, we're human. It's not the end of the day. It's not like do or die. Do this interview or you don't get it. If we're really interested in you, we will give you that opportunity as an employer.
To present yourself. And, you know, some previous projects that we worked on, and we were interviewing some people, and I remember encountering somebody who was so impatient and just kept, you know, making so much noise, like how it made him wait, and he had, so I thought, well, okay. You know, it's good to know that you're in such a hurry, so perhaps we can let you go and you can come another day. And, you know, just some of those, you know, things that we do and say while we're waiting for the interview as well.
Exactly. I'm glad to know that you're extremely impatient, because then you will not fit on my team, because you need a lot of patience to do this work, you know, because it shows a lot of stuff. I had an employer who just used to keep people waiting. It's not that he had anything else important to do. He's just like, I want to see how patient they are over there. Like, are they going to give up and leave, or are they going to wait and go through this and ask me why I made them wait? Will anyone have the guts to do that? And there's like in a certain environment that I did a recruiting one, just to give you a quick example. And what we used to do for the second interviews is now mix all the candidates together, and they'll be in a waiting room, actually waiting. And most of the students that we used to pick were from Ivy League schools. But one girl managed to slip through, and she was like in a version of a polytechnic type of program. And another girl leans over to her and says, I didn't think they recruited from there. Why would they do that? I thought it was just, you know, your Harvards and your Boston universities. And she actually didn't get the job because of that. Because they were like, her attitude is horrible. She's not the kind of person I want. So just also watch how you interact with other people in the waiting room when you're waiting for an interview.
So the interview begins from the waiting room?
From the minute you get into the organization. Some organizations do that and you have no clue. You'll be taking it for granted that I'm just in the waiting area. Who's watching? Who cares? You know, but it's a chance for you to sell your social skills, you know, how well you deal with other people. Some companies have an airport rule. An airport rule is if I was at an airport and I was snowed in for 24 hours, do I want to be there with Yvonne for 24 hours with nowhere else to go? You know, can I actually survive the airport with her? And that's the airport rule. Can I do this?
Right.
And so personality is key. How you carry yourself, your attitude, all of these things make a huge difference to how you appear. You might not be able to afford the most fanciest clothes, but when you open your mouth, you can speak, you can present yourself, you're humble, you respect people. You know, that's what I'm looking for, attitude.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
And that's important because everybody thinks it's my papers that will speak for me. Oh, take a look, I'm a straight A student, I got a first-class bachelor's degree in this, and you know, so you think it's about, you know, your grades and you're doing really well. And that may not necessarily be the case. You're looking for something beyond that.
Yeah, not anymore. It's great that you have those good grades, but can you actually translate it to what my organization needs? If today I ask you an example of my recruiting firm, and I say, listen, there's a new multinational, they're looking for a personal assistant. We've not been able to find anybody that they can, that they're interested in having, and we've gotten the top. And the first thing somebody would figure out is, and we say, you're new, get on board, figure out how you're getting me these assistants, but I need them like yesterday. How creative are you going to be? Because anything you learned in school is not going to help you figure out, maybe let me look at the top 100 SMEs in the country, or the top 100 organizations. Let me pick the top 10 on this list and call their assistants and say, hi, I'd like to speak to the CEO's assistant. Hi, my name is Vivian. I'm calling from Amada Human Capital. I have an amazing opportunity for you. And you actually make the sale when I get her CV. So if I call you, hi Yvonne, I'm from Amada Human Capital. I'm looking for a personal assistant. You've got an amazing track record. I need you to move. And these are the reasons I need you to do that. Are you going to be able, school doesn't teach you to do that. It's being able to think out of the box. Actually, I forget the box. Just think without the box. Don't think about a box. Just think without
like there's no box.
Exactly. It's just about being able to think on your feet, work ethics, how you conduct yourself in the office place. Are you just going to come and be on Facebook all day? Social media, YouTube, what are you going to do?
All right. Some important questions to raise. Now, just as we conclude the interview process and then, you know, get into other matters regarding job seeking, there's usually that question that you get. So, how much are you looking for? And this gets so many people tongue-tied, from fresh graduates to those who are just seeking to have, you know, move from one organization to another. How do you know how much to quote?
That's difficult. PwC used to help because they had a great report that they used to give, like a salary survey that they did annually. They haven't done one in a while. So that was a great benchmark. But it is difficult because you have from SME startups to very well-established multinationals. One multinational, one organization, a receptionist could be earning 15,000 shillings. But you go to a multinational, receptionist straight out of school is earning 80,000 shillings. And then when it comes to sort of getting those people into new jobs, you can't, because other organizations like, but you don't have experience. Why would I pay you 80,000 shillings to come and run my office? No, you know. So there's a bit of disparity in the salary scales. You have to look at the industry, you have to look at the organization itself and understand that you don't necessarily want to go in there and say, I need 500,000 shillings a month. Yet the owner of the business is not even paying themselves that much, you know. So it's, you sort of, one, have to understand the industry you're going into, and two, also understand your worth. What are you actually worth? Don't expect to be at 100,000 shillings today and walk into this interview and say, I want 350. How did you jump? Why? So why aren't they paying you that way you are right now? So you need to sort of balance it. Understand your worth, understand what the market pays for it, and that's all on research. You could do a whole bunch of research online nowadays. You could even ask questions on Facebook. You could on, you know, anywhere, different forums to figure out.
Get prepared.
Be very prepared
into the interview, and also be ready to ask questions, like you mentioned, because that's important. You mentioned it's interactive. So it's not you sitting on one end and you're being questioned and grilled by this group of people. All right, let's talk about now. This was pretty much focusing on fresh graduates. What about, others who say, well, I've been working here for quite some time and I'd like to move to a certain organization they've got great growth opportunities. Let me give you an example. There's a tweet here from Adam who says, I'm 46 years old. I'm a former telecom employee. His designation was a telephone operator. Can I still get a job?
Yes, you can get a job, but you also have to be a little bit open-minded in terms of what kind of job you could get. Like the market is changing quite a bit. I know my parents were in jobs for the same position for 20 years, whereas here we move every 1, 2, 3 years.
Yes.
At 46, it's difficult to sort of make a move unless you're in management or senior executive types of roles where you're wanted. People understand the delivery that you want. It's going to be hard, having come from that kind of background, to get a job, because he also has salary expectations. He's like, this is how much I was getting paid as a telephone operator over here. I expect to get similar somewhere else. So what he needs to do is just sort of make a career shift and say, what more is it possible for me to do? Because not all organizations have that role anymore. So you need to sort of do some research, do some homework, understand what it is you'd be good at doing, and reposition yourself to be able to do that.
Okay. There's also BPO outsourcing.
Yes.
That's huge. So perhaps he can try that. It sort of seems similar to being a telephone operator.
Yes. Yes, he could definitely look into that. The more available roles for that nowadays is more like sales, like telemarketing. So if he's good at speaking to people and selling ideas, that's also an option for him to go into.
Right. Okay. Joseph Ochoya says, why the delay after the interview? I mean, how long is it feasible to wait? Some companies will tell you, if you haven't heard from us by the 20th of this month, consider your application unsuccessful. But others don't necessarily. I mean, like, in your case, you mentioned he didn't get back to you and you were lucky enough to meet him at another venue. But for how long should you wait? And, should you be the type that, calls in and says, or would you end up looking like a stalker?
You could.
Calling and
you have to balance it.
Get back to me already.
You have to balance it. Well, there's two parts of it. I actually do think it's extremely rude of organizations today, in the day and age that we are, not to get back in touch with your candidates. Because one, they're probably a consumer of yours, of your products. So you're possibly going to lose a consumer. And two, it affects your employer brand. So the way you treat me today, I will remember it years from now when you're trying to poach me from a different organization. And I'm going to be like, well, I mean, I wasn't important to you then, so why would I want to join your organization today? Because you didn't even have the courtesy to communicate back to me and let me know there are no vacancies. Most people appreciate that, even if it's a no. And we've realized that in our own businesses when we look and we say, I'm so sorry you didn't get it. There were better qualified people for this role, but please keep on visiting our site. And it's amazing. They responded like, thank you so much. And you're like, but I said no. What do you mean, thank you so much?
For them, they know that, okay, that's not going to happen. Let me move on to the next one.
Exactly.
But you have all of these applications out and nobody's telling you anything, and you keep being hopeful that you'll hear from any one of them.
Exactly. So, I mean, I think organizations need to sort of shift the way they deal with candidates. So I completely agree with him. It's a little bit frustrating. Some clients want to fill a position ASAP, but it ends up taking a lot longer. But communicating to the candidates, especially because they could lose a really good candidate just by taking their sweet time and making a decision. So there should be a way to still engage them and say, hi, we're still going through the process. We're very interested in you. Please be patient with us as we go through this process. Like some form of communication and with key timelines. And typically in an interview at the end of it is not a bad question for you to ask. How long is it going to take to go through this entire process? Do you have an idea? Is it 3 weeks? Is it 3 months? You can even ask, how many applicants do you have? Is it like a large talent pool that you're, looking at right now? There are different ways that could give you an idea of how long to wait. Sometimes you could wait for a while. I waited for a job for almost 6 months until they actually got back to me and say, hey, actually, you're hired. I'm like, 6 months later, I even forgot I applied.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So patience also, but I do like that you talk about the fact that organizations need to respond. And I think that's important. Yes, no, maybe, or this is taking longer than we thought, or, whichever way it is. Okay, so let's move on now to, you've been doing this work for some time, and you feel like you want to change your career. How do you go about doing that? You've been doing great in accounts and you want to move into another department. You could even want to do it within the organization in which you work. You want to shift departments a little bit and say, look, this is what I studied for, but this is what I'm good at, like you mentioned. How do you go about doing that and proving that despite the fact that I've been doing this for 5 or 6 years, I think my strengths actually lie here?
So just to be clear, when you say career change, you mean I'm in marketing and I want to get into HR,
right?
Type of career.
Yes, yes.
Not necessarily I want to move into another organization.
That's right, yes.
Now, those are usually very key things, discussions that you have with your manager. You know, I've been enjoying what I do, but I'd like to be exposed to different parts of the organization, say finance.
Okay.
Could you find a way in some of my assignments to get me more involved with the finance team?
Right.
I do know of a gentleman who I respect and look up to quite a bit, who moved from finance into marketing role and ended up being a marketing director, which I thought was just absolutely unheard of.
Right.
But it was really, really interesting in terms of how he sort of switched roles. But it was because he was so interested. He was so engaging. He'd follow up. He was like, hey, I'm willing to do that project. I can help.
Right.
I know I'm in finance, but I can help you, you know, sort of do this. And that's how he was able to slowly make the shift over. Into a different department. So I think it's just about showing initiative, expressing to your manager exactly where you know want to more exposure in. I know some organizations, especially if you're like a personal assistant, some people are like, I just need a PA. I don't need somebody who wants to come in and be like, I want to do marketing. I want to do you know, all of these. And I've been in a similar situation because my first job out of uni, I just said I need the role. So I was a personal assistant to 2 vice presidents. But within 3 months, I managed to sell myself to get a recruiting job. And one of the vice presidents said, that's great, I'm happy for you, but I hope you know I'm not letting you go. So you find a way to do both of them and we're fine.
And that's the sacrifice, isn't it?
Yes.
Because then you have to do, you know, what it is that you aspire to do over and above your core duties that you were hired to do in the first place.
Exactly. So he was like, I'm happy that you got the promotion, but I'm not getting another PA, so you need to figure this out.
All right.
You know, so
do it, but you know, get my job done as well.
Exactly.
All right, here's another question on Twitter. Charles Kimboy says, is it advisable to quit a job to pursue further studies, say an MA with no prospects on the other side? You know, you constantly want to better yourself. Do you leave your work, go back to school, and you know, now you want to come back into the workforce? Is that advisable?
No, it depends. If you're in Nairobi and the program is in Nairobi, don't quit. Find a way to balance the two. If you understand fully how it's going to directly impact your role or advance you, you know, manage the two. But if you fully quit and go back to school full time, it will affect you to some ways because it's going to be difficult to get back into the job market when you're ready, because you're literally going to be back out there with all those different graduates, hopefully with better networks than they do have. But you will have a bit of a challenge with that. If you're getting a scholarship to go overseas, you like have a fellow program, that's great. Take those 2 years off, go do it if you can afford it, and it's not going to affect your financial standing. Not an issue, because most of the time when you go to your master's, it's for the networks, it's for the people you're going to be in class with. It's for learning a lot more than you did from a theoretical standpoint on how to apply different things in your particular career. A lot of people leave leave work to go do an MBA, which is not a bad thing, but you need to realize, what am I hoping to achieve by taking this MBA? You know, like the Strathmore Business School has a great program. They have the short-term, long-term type of programs, and you can manage that in between classes. And the interactions in class will help you even in your work.
Okay, all right. There's a growing group of women now who say, I'm in a steady relationship and I think I can take some time off work to have my children. Primarily because, like you mentioned, when you're a young woman and you're just starting out your family, there's a lot of employers who shy away and say, okay, for the 9 months she'll be pregnant, her output will not be optimum. And then she'll need 3 months off. And sometimes women take 4 months, including your annual leave. So some women say, okay, you know what, let me take some time off. Let me have my children. When they're about, you know, school going age, maybe 4 or 5, I can get back into the workforce. How do you look at an individual like that, and who comes, for an interview and says, "Okay, where have you been for the last 5 years?" Well, I was having my children. A plus or not, or should you try and have a balance of the two?
Well, I'm biased to that question. I admire women who are able to stop their day-to-day career to raise children. That's that's a very strong feat. It can go against you, especially if you're trying to climb the career ladder, if you're trying to be a C-level executive soon, if you're trying to get regional type of roles, because for 5 years, no. I can see you taking a year off, 6 to 12 months off. I can understand that as an organization, but what have you been doing in the last 5 years other than, taking your kids to school, taking care of them, temperatures and all of that? That's actually going to change my product in these markets that I'm trying to go.
Okay.
So there's always going to be a knowledge gap that they're saying you've missed out on the last 5 years. Do you know where the marketing programs are now? We're on a whole different level.
Okay.
So unless you're able to show how you've been keeping up with that while you've been gone, whether it's in consulting assignments, whether it's in online assignments that you do work from home, or even the employer that you're with was like, I'm taking time off, but I can do these types of projects for you while I'm at home. It's really important for me to be with my kids.
Right. Okay. Very good advice. Here's an interesting one from Emmanuel Ocheng, who says, I'm a graphic designer. I was fired under unclear circumstances and I haven't got a job up until now. Does it mean these jobs are scarce? It's an interesting question about when you're asked about what happened at your previous place of work. And people do make mistakes. Sometimes it could be unclear circumstances, like Emmanuel says, and in other times it could be that you really did make a mistake.
Yeah.
And of course that remains on your resume for some time. How do you now convince your future employer that, okay, this is what it is in my past, but...
This is exactly about learning yourself and understanding what you actually have on your resume.
Right.
And when you go into an interview, those questions are going to come up, so you have to be prepared for it. What happened to your previous position? Why are you no longer with that organization? Is it due to performance? Is it due to, seeing differences eye to eye with something, that was not working?
Right.
And I've actually had some people be very honest and say, I was let go. Sometimes you don't want to be too straightforward in terms of, I was fired, because everyone's going to be like, okay, what did you do?
Right.
And there's other ways where you say, I was let go because I had a difference of opinion in a certain situation, and I felt it was time for me to leave. So it was kind of like an agreement between me and the employer to sort of, part ways. And you can not give too much detail, but so long as it wasn't something like I embezzled funds, then not delving into too much information in regards to the situation, or this was the challenge, I chose to go this direction, and it was not a good pointer for my employer. So they let me go. It was a learning curve for me. I'm still struggling with whether I should be honest with future employers or not, but I think moving forward, if I don't believe in something and I think you're doing it wrong, and I will be able to speak up, so it really depends on what the issue is. Some you can do it tactfully.
Right. But never lie about it. So.
Never lie about it, because all I need to do is pick up the phone and call. Nairobi is so small, especially for graphic designers.
Yes.
If we're looking for graphic designers, I'm an agency, all I need to do is pick up that phone and call that agency, be like, so why did you let this guy go? He's actually here in my office. And people do that, Yeah,
and that's the question. Do they do that? Do people actually call your referees?
Yes.
Do they actually call your former employer or your current employer if it is that you're seeking to make a move and you're already in one job? Do they actually do that? Because some people don't think they do.
They actually do call your referees. We won't call your current employer. So for instance, today we won't call KTN. We'll probably call the previous employers. Typically, your referees should be people that you've worked with in your different organizations. And when I look at your background, I'm going to say, I want to talk to somebody she worked with in that organization. But some people have their pastor, other people that had absolutely nothing to do with their job or work that they've done, and that's a problem. And typically what you need to do is now start going back as an employer and start looking at all the other places they've worked and try and get in touch with those organizations.
So
and
you
find
do
out.
make these calls?
You do, you have to.
Okay.
You have to. We actually had somebody get picked up from our offices for having embezzled millions of shillings from a previous employer.
Okay. So
And
you want to know who you are.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow. All right. Okay, here we go. So this whole thing about having a one-page CV is getting a lot of people confused. Like, that's impossible for me to do. I'm not sure that I can do that. What would you say about that? One-page CV, is that humanly possible? And you know, for a lot of you that say it may or may not be possible, we're sitting here with a lady that actually conducts recruitment of people. And this is what she's looking for, and she deals with multinational companies. So, much as it may be difficult to take, it may be important for us to actually listen.
It is. Now,
one page?
The first question is, are you straight from university? Then yes, one page.
Okay.
If you're straight from undergrad, minimal experience, one page.
Right.
For mid-level to senior level managers, I actually have a CEO CV on my table right now, and it's one page.
And that's a CEO?
Yeah, and that's a CEO. Okay. It's one page, 2 pages max. Don't give people loads of stories unless you're like a research or a scientist of sorts, where you have to actually explain some of the different works and assignments and the papers and all of that you've done that's relevant to that type of work. But your everyday corporate world gets short, sweet, straight to the point achievements. You're not trying to rewrite your entire job description on your CV. You're just trying to get to the key points of things that you did and the key things that you achieved or were able to turn around in the business.
Okay.
So it is possible. I'm willing to help.
Yes, yes, and we'll definitely put you in touch with these people. I see you having a one-page CV. I think, okay, all right. You know, and I bet has done quite a bit.
Exactly.
To become
exactly.
CEO, and you know,
and he focuses on his last 3 key roles.
Okay.
And at the bottom it clearly states references available upon request.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's how he's able to fit it. Because if you add the references, maybe it's 2 pages.
Okay, all right, okay. You know, but understood, if you're straight out of university, you probably don't have much experience, so there's not much to write on. Okay, all right, fine. So we've gone through this entire process. We've gotten the interview right, and we've gotten the coveted job. And so now it's keeping that job. And we do understand Generation Y, and it's now Generation Z, I think, who are now, you know, into one job, and you're in it 2 years, 3 years, and you've moved on to the next one. But here's the important thing. How do you now keep this job? You've worked so hard to get it. You worked on your CV. You had a great presentation at your interview session. You finally got the job. How do you keep it? Because, you know, things are so competitive. And, you know, if you fail, your company would say, well, let's let you go, because guess what? There's 1,000 other people who want that position that you're in right now. How do you now keep this job?
And now the challenge that I've seen most of the time, and people are getting so much better at this lately, is selling themselves in the interview. Especially salespeople, they'll sell themselves very well in the interview. But when you get to the job, you're not able to deliver a single thing that you sold in the interview. You need to be sure that you're telling the same story. So if I'm here and I tell you I'm passionate, I'm energetic, I can organize, I get things done. When I get into the job, I don't get anything done. Then that's a huge problem. You need to match the story. You sold me on your skills and your abilities to do certain things. So when you come in, you need to make sure you're doing that above and beyond the call of duty. You need to take initiative. You need to be flexible. I mean, I understand you need to have a work-life balance, but if you need to take calls in the evening or whatever time of day to make sure you keep the business running, to show initiative, flexibility, then you need to go ahead and do that. It's all about understanding what is expected of you in the organization, what you can do to keep achieving those targets, and if you're not hitting the targets, don't wait until D-Day
to start to say, oh well. And you start with the excuses. I would have done it, Vivian, except...
Exactly. So if you know you're falling behind, go on. Hey, Yvonne, I'm sorry, this targets, I'm really struggling on them because of XYZ, but I got this other bit done. Could I get your help on this side?
Okay.
I need to get it done. I want to do it well. If you could just give me a guideline, I'll be able to run with it. Take initiative. Google is your best friend. Some people are like, but I don't know how to do it. Well, we have Google now.
Right.
If you don't know how to do it, just Google it. I'm sure there'll be several
Anything
solutions.
under the sun, yes.
Exactly, that you can come up with to sort it out. Be resourceful. You know, you're not always going to be given all the answers. Most people, you'll be given an assignment. Most of the time, you're probably not going to know how to do that assignment, but it's your job to figure out how to get it done and get it done well.
Okay.
So it's all about initiative, staying on top of your game, staying on top of the trends, understanding your market very well, what's going on. If you're in a marketing role, you want to understand, or branding role, you understand how well your products are doing in the market, what are other products going on in the market that are similar to yours, what are people saying about it? Because you need to be, always ahead of the 8 ball. You need to be ahead of it. You need to be very well prepared.
Okay.
And because as a superior, what you're basically looking for is somebody who understands the line of work that you're in and will get things done, right? So your job is to make your boss look good, reality. You make him look good, we all win, So you need to go out of your way to make sure that he's always prepared with the right information that he needs.
Right.
He doesn't want to look like an idiot on national TV, announcing certain results that you
didn't go through.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because most of the time your superior will trust that, you know what, she went through this document, she typed it, she must have done a really good job on it. Some people actually take that assumption and trust until it's passed on to somebody else and they're like, this is wrong, this is not what we discussed. And you're like, really?
Okay, all right. Making your boss look good, yes. And, you're young, you're energetic, you're at the workplace, there's authority that you've got to deal with. What are some of the mistakes that young people make when they're at the workplace? And it could be, like you said, make sure that you sell yourself correctly, don't oversell yourself.
Yeah.
But now we've talked about dressing up and showing up for the interview. And of course, now day one of work, you look a little different. And when we talk about dressing, I'm not talking about expensive clothes and designer clothing and that sort of thing.
Exactly.
But just especially speaking to young people today in terms of how you present yourself, being a team player and all of that. Let's just speak about that.
Okay, simple. Keep it very simple. Your usual slacks, your black pants or gray or brown or whatever. A nice work top. You don't have to be in a suit all the time.
Okay.
Guys, depending on your work environment, a tie works. Sometimes you don't have to have a tie, really, depending on your work environment as well. Shoes, always clean.
It's important that we say these things because...
Yeah, it's key.
Yeah.
For women, just be very conscious about the kinds of shoes that you wear to work.
Right.
Open-toed shoes are not exactly encouraged. Maybe an agency side, it's acceptable, but your consulting firms are looking for the closed shoes. They're not looking for pink or red, just very conservative type of things. When you're going to work, look like you're there to work, not there for a fashion show or a party, but you still can look really good, professionally dressed.
So
in
this
a
is
suit
not to
and
say
a
you
skirt.
look drab and...
Exactly,
I'm a
but don't
working
come with the
woman.
little skirts.
Okay.
And don't have any stockings. I think women wearing skirts at work should wear stockings, but that's my personal opinion.
All right.
Just because I think it's more professional. Especially if you have a skirt that keeps riding up in certain places. Again, if you're an agency, almost anything is acceptable. So that's the environment they work in.
So learn the environment that you're in and try and make sure that you fit into that.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Exactly.
All right. Here we go. As we wind up our discussion, but just the last question, Henga Mituma asks, so can you assist people in creating these CVs and how does that happen? Because you are a recruitment agency, do you also help the candidates? Do you give any tips, any advice, and this is how to package yourself?
Yes, we do. We actually take a look at your resume, see what it is that you're trying to achieve or focus on in terms of your career, what you're trying to position yourself as, and then we help you rewrite it. We actually do the rewriting for you. It takes about 3 to 4 business days to rewrite it.
Okay.
And we can actually help you do that.
Okay, and we can get in touch with you on Twitter?
Yes, on Twitter is at Amada Careers.
Okay. All right. We'll be tweeting that in just a moment. So here's me giving you that link if you need that. Let's just do a recap of everything we've discussed about getting yourself into that dream job, the do's and the don'ts.
You need to be prepared. You need to understand the organization you're going for. You need to understand yourself. Again, I stress, a lot of us don't understand who we are. And when we're asked who we are beyond my job, I can't really tell people who I really am or what I'm passionate about. So I think those are some of the key things, because employers are looking for, I need somebody who is versatile, who can communicate, who's flexible, who can think on their feet. You know, I don't have to tell them every single thing in order for them to get the job done. They can figure it out. Engaging, because today we're all about engaging people, whether it's on social media or marketing or face-to-face or networking or in sales. So personable. You need to be personable. You need to sell the human side of you. I can communicate. I can work with people. I'm a team player. I get things done. I'm organized. And also in terms of getting on that dream job, it is going to take a lot of work. For some people, it's going to be very simple. Today I apply, tomorrow I get a response. For others, it's actually going to take you some time. So it's not one of those things that you send your resume or CV to a headhunter or a staffing agency and tomorrow they call you up for an interview. It doesn't work that way. For sometimes you'll be lucky. It depends on what jobs are available at that time. Other times, on a low season for the staffing agencies, they might actually say, hey, I have Yvonne's CV. Do you guys, you should take a look at it for when you're ready, you know, helping clients build their pipeline. But you have to be active. I remember my aunt used to make me sit with her, my godmother actually, every Friday. And we would go through all the jobs in the newspaper, and she'd make me do 50 applications a week. Okay. And eventually, I finally got a couple of responses. But you have to be very deliberate if you're looking. And the higher level that you go, it's usually about networking and talking to different people. I'm looking to make a move, whether you're talking to the staffing agencies or talking to other corporates, or just finding out what's out there. What's out there, and can we talk more? Because at a certain point, when people are no longer about, here's my CV, it's more about your track record. Like, I already know what you have. Okay. Let's talk. I might not have a position right now, but we can definitely talk.
Okay. All right. Okay. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on board. This has been a great hour of just learning how to get ourselves in the right frame of mind, in the right space to getting that dream job. And I think also just reminding us about selling ourselves. And so we need to be very deliberate and know who we are.
Exactly.
You know, and sell that. Because grades are one thing, and I keep saying grades are one thing, but then again, remember, everybody's sharp now. Everybody's getting a degree, everybody's getting those grades. So there's got to be that one thing, that differentiates you from the next. All right, we thank you so much.
Thank you.
Vivian Ojal, who's the Africa lead at Amada Human Capital, and talking about just how to get yourself in the right space of mind and how to get that dream job, and most importantly, how to keep that dream job once you get it. We will be posting this on Twitter if you'd like any sort of assistance, and if you'd like to continue to ask questions. And of course, you are in the job hunt and you want Amada to help you do that. All of those details will be on Twitter in just a moment. Thank you so much for joining us. Do stay with us on Sunrise Live. The show continues.